I am so excited to have our next guest with us because I'm bringing her with me to the Bob Anderson concert. She made her film debut with Elvis Presley as his lover in Stay Away Joe. Her next film was with Frank Sinatra in Dirty Dingus McGee, and Frank Sinatra fell in love with her and dated her. Let's hear from her mouth. We're talking Marya Coburn. Marya, tell us how you first got into film.
First of all, thank you for this interview. It's very nice of you to consider me. I haven't done interviews in a very 100 years. I'm 76 years old. Anyway, so how did I get into the film business? I was a dancer and did a lot of work with Bob Fosse and Peter Gennaro and all that, but I've never used my acting. I graduated from high school performing arts and got a scholarship at Juilliard, but I never really used my acting that I had been trained for. So I go to California because of a love affair that didn't work. And then I ended up meeting, thank God, David Winters, who was a choreographer for Hullabaloo, who wanted me for the show of Hullabaloo. But unfortunately, my mother is Asian and she's a professor at Columbia. And of course, I wasn't allowed to do certain things, which is to perform at the moment. And so I ended up in California. I lost my boyfriend, didn't work out, didn't want to get married. And so I ended up seeing serendipitously, I'm very serendipitous, David Winters in Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills while I was going on a tour with a minister and his wife that I was staying with. You notice, minister and his wife? My mother had to send me to live with them. Okay, so he sends me he says, there's no dancing. I've done it, Noel Harrison special. He says, but I'll send you to an agent because I think you should act. I said, really? I don't really like to do that. And he said, go to the agent. He said, you're a smart girl, got a scholarship, and you'll be able to act and use your skills there. And I go to see the agent, and he tells me, okay. He said, so you're pretty, you're beautiful. He says, it's a dime a dozen in this town. He says, I want to know if you can act. So I'm going to have to tell you to come back, do a monologue or a scene with somebody. And I said, I don't know anybody. So monologue, I really am not prepared. So I went home and I called David Winters and I said, he wants, excuse me, everything's running, eyes, nose. Um, um, so, he said, no, 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 no. He said, listen, go to MGM and meet Peter Tewksbury, who's the director of uh, what was that family show, and he said, and meet him, and said, he said, I want you to dress in tight jeans, high heels, and a white shirt. I want you to roll the sleeves, open, put up the collar. He said, my hair was down to my waist, and no makeup. He said, just lip gloss and a little rouge, maybe. He said, and then meet him. So I did all that, and they said, oh, and unbutton the button to the third button down. I said, really? I have no cleavage. I'm a dancer. He says, just unbutton it. Okay, fine. By the way, my name in the film is Marya Kristen, and I'll tell you that later why it was Marya Kristen. So anyway, I go there, and Father Knows Best. That was Peter Tewksbury was the director of Father Knows Best. He lived in Connecticut. Very conservative, nice man. I love this man. So I get in, and I'm new in California, and he said to me, "Hi, Maria." I said, "Hi, how are you?" And he said, "So what's your sign?" And I'm just going, "Oh my God, I don't know the answer to that question," but knowing I'm a good actress, I flirted a little bit with my shoulders. I put my two arms on his desk. I looked at him and I said, "My sign, Mr. Tewksbury, is dollars. That's why I'm here." And then he started laughing, of course, and and uh, he said, "Oh, that was really funny." And we started interviewing, and his wife was a dancer too, etc., etc. So then, at the end, he said to me, "Well, it was nice to meet you. He said, it's nice to meet you. He said, you did the Broadway, you did the TV with Ed Sullivan dancing, you did all this with Peter Gennaro, you know. And he said, but you know, you don't have an acting film on you. He said, I said, but listen, I said to him, I studied with Stella Adler. I'm a Juilliard. I said, I'm quite skilled. I said, I've done plays with Chekhov and Shakespeare and all that. And I'm sure, I said, you're a very good director. And with you behind me, I can project what you want in the character. Okay, so I think that is not so difficult to do. I said, with you as the director and knowing how skilled I am, and I can even dance. How's that? I didn't know what kind of film this was, except I know that I was informed by David Winters that they have interviewed 500 girls and they all failed. And I, when I entered, I said, "Yeah, you really think I'm going to be the one after 500 girls failed, and I don't have a movie on me or any skill in film?" I said, "That I'm going to get this thing, but you know, let's play the game. It's okay." So then he thanked me, and of course, I told him all my skills, and I was going to walk out. I held the doorknob and I thought of my $100 left, and I have to go back to my mother under her rule of thumb. So I grabbed the door, turned around real quick, and I looked at him and I said, "Mr. Tewksbury," I said, "you know, I'm a very good actress. And I think with whatever this is as an Indian maiden, I think I can fulfill that part with you on the helm and behind me. So you said, thank you. I haven't done anything. Why are you thanking me? Why are you thanking me? What did I do that you have to thank me?" I said, "You will have to thank me after you give me the opportunity to either do a monologue," which I learned from the agent, "a monologue or a scene from your script. And then you could say thank you to me." So I went home. And before I left that, I closed the door, went away, and I looked at the secretary and I said to her, "By the way, can I just ask you something?" Because I was really disturbed by the first question. I said, "What does it mean when your boss asks you what your sign is?" She looked at me like I came from Mars, rolled her eyes, and I looked perplexed. I said, "What's that about, right?" And she said, "Your astrological sign." And I'm going, "Astrological. Can you spell that for me?" And then I said, "Is that connected with astronomy?" I said, "I did study some." She said, "Excuse me." She said, "Astrology." I wrote it down. And of course, I went to the library or bookstore and I bought, I think I had 3 or 5 books, studied it. And, uh, and of course, you know, I learned about the signs now. So anybody tells me I started acting before I entered the door, I always ask my agent or what the director, casting director sign is. So whatever sign there was, I would be the opposite sign of their. Like if you're a Scorpio, I'd enter as a Pisces, and of course I was already acting there. And say, "Oh, what sign are you?" And says, "You must be Pisces." "Oh, of course I am. Thank you," because I know he's a Scorpio. But then, of course, so I got a David Winters called. How was it? I didn't know, but I lied and I said I was great. And I didn't feel it because I thought, well, maybe he rejected me. But then, to make a long story short, he called me a second time and he asked me, uh, "Can you can you jump out of a moving tractor?" I said, I was a little bit confused, but I said, "Yes, I'm a dancer. If it's going slow, I can jump out." He says, "Can you swim?" I said, "Yes." "Can you ride a horse?" I said, "Yes." Of course, I can't ride a horse. And of course, I don't swim. Okay. And then I asked, "Well, how many weeks until shooting?" He says, "About 8 weeks we'll be shooting the film in Arizona." And I said, "Thank you so much." So that was the second interview. And then I found out I got a third interview. Now we've got 4 men there, director, whatever they were. And now they gave me a script but you know, and they said, "Go to this room, 5 minutes, come out." And I met 2 actors that I was supposed to work with, 2 women. And, um, and so we had the scene. They said, "Thank you." I don't know if I did well, but then a few weeks happened and I got the part. And of course, I was shocked, and I was Elvis Presley's love interest. It was a really cute part, and because I danced, he inserted a dance scene in it, which was great. Elvis, the greatest human being actor I've ever worked with, kind, generous, humble, funny as hell. I mean, really, yes. And he's like a teenager, and the most courteous actor I've ever met, in a sense that he would answer the direct. This is a guy that I think first earned the first $1 million doing films, and anytime he has a question, he'd say, "Sir, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, sir." I thought, wow, for a person that's getting $1 million a film at the time, that was really fabulous. So this is 1965. Okay, film came out in '66. So I was totally impressed, and it goes on. We became good friends. I got to go to Tennessee, many things. I got to really know that he's a generous person, because on the way there, he found a black old lady staring at the window, and it goes more to the story. But make a long story short, he bought her a car, and she couldn't believe it. He kept telling her, what car? If a guardian angel came, what car would you like? And she said, well, I can't tell you, honey, because I don't have that kind of money. So I'm not going to answer you. He says, well, there is a guardian angel. Let's play the game. So got the game and whatever it was. And then when the car came out, she says, now I can't have that because I don't drive, honey. Oh, gee, how'd you get here? My husband in that truck is fixing something inside. So then he said, well, then your husband will get the car. I was totally blown away by this actor. And so let's go to the Sinatra one. I made a joke after 6 weeks of shooting that I was in Arizona and Sedona and all these places that we went to. And I made a joke. I said, well, working with that fabulous legend, let's see, my next film will be with Frank Sinatra. You're not going to believe this. So I went to the Philippines to do some whatever family visitations there. And I arrived, and my agent was telling me, where have you been? Where have you been? I've been calling you. You have to go to MGM again. Here we go. Okay, fine. And the director said, "So, Marya, what? No sign this time. What have you done lately?" I said, "Oh, I just finished a movie with Elvis Presley, Stay Away Joe." They said, "Really?" I said, "Yes." "And which part did you play?" I said, "I played Billy Joe." "Oh," they said, "okay, thank you." Got the part. Didn't have to read, didn't have to audition, didn't have to do anything. I found out that the writer of Dirty Dingus McGee was the writer of Stay Away Joe. So that's how I got that part. And Sinatra. Okay, we're a different person now. I was with Ann Jackson, Sinatra, so many heavyweights. Was Burgess Meredith in this? I don't remember now, but there were a lot of wonderful actors in this one too. I love Ann Jackson, by the way. Um, Sinatra played was it a hoodlum? He was a bad boy. It's another cowboy movie, and different. He was quieter. The script girl was always there, and if an airplane would pass, this is how I remember Frank on the set. If any airplane passes by, he'll say, "That airplane disturbed me. Can you throw me my line?" And I thought, wow, that's a great excuse. I'll use that next time. The airplane bothered me. I forgot my line. Quiet man. He loved to give quiet dinners certain 2 times during, and I, of course, declined. I personally have to say, all these rumors about mafiaism uh, haunted me. I'm young. I'm innocent. I'm not.
How old were you?
Huh?
How old
How
were
old?
you?
1920, I don't know, somewhere there. Um, and I'm very green. I have not dated yet at the time. You know, if you're Asian, you have to be 21 and you have to have a chaperone. This is the style of my mother's country where I was born, where you don't go on a date alone, you have a chaperone. And so that's why I was too busy being a dancer. I didn't really care about dating, and I had no crushes. Most of the people I knew were gay, so I was really happy about that. And they were like my girlfriends, and they loved me. I loved them. So I really didn't care about dating.
How did
Uh,
Frank Sinatra start pursuing you?
uh, okay, the two dinners that he gave during filming, I turned down. I lied and said my mother was there and I couldn't go because I was afraid of him. So at the end, Jilly, which is his best friend and I guess bodyguard at this time, who I adored him too, he's very nice, um, told me, well, Frank said that, maybe Frank said that you have to give us the address and phone number. And I said, so now I'm really scared. So I said, okay, okay. So I made up a phone number and I made up an address because I told myself, hey, he's a big star. I will never end up in a restaurant where he's at because I'm not a big star. And so I will never see him again. So I made up the street, I made up the number, I made up everything. And I thought I would never see this man again as long as I lived, unless I did another film with him. So finally I get to Hollywood. In the meantime, I got a job at Playboy, and I was there one night, and suddenly this guy looks at me and stares at me and says, "I know you." He says, "What are you doing here? Thought you're such a nice girl." I said, "Well, this is a nice club. You can't date me. You can't touch me. And so what's wrong with you thought I was a nice girl?" I said, "This is a good job with a good pay, and why not?" And so he looked at me and he says, "I've been waiting for you. And what's this thing with the address and the phone number?" I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You know, I just got a new roommate and I just got it the day we were leaving and I probably got everything confused." He said, "There's no such street." I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. I mean, really?" And so his name was Joe DiCarlo. He was Sonny and Cher's manager at the time. And he was one of Frank's entourage friends because Frank always had at least 6, 7 people, same as Elvis, 6, 7 people with them whenever and wherever they go. So I he said, "Well, let me tell Frank." And finally, the day came. I'm supposed to go, and I thought it was going to be a date. And so I get dressed like Chinese cheongsam dress with the slits on the side. I put my hair up with a flower, and they said they're going to pick me up. They picked me up. I go to Coldwater Canyon, which is where he lived, and I get there, and there are like 7 men. And I'm going, whoa, and and I thought we were going to go out alone. Instead, Hope Lang, a famous actress, arrives, and I said, "Oh, good, another girl's here." Okay, and then they said, "Let's all go." And I thought, well, I'm not dating him alone. We're going with a bunch of people. He gets into a Volkswagen wagon at that time. He likes to drive, and he's driving, put on his spectacles, horn rimmed, whatever, and we're driving. And guess where we went? To a ball game to see the Chicago Cubs. I have never been to a baseball game in my whole life, or a football game, or any game, only tennis. So I get there, and suddenly I took down the hair. I took down my hair. I took the flower out because everybody was casual, and I'm all dressed up to go on a date. And I'm coming down the stand, right? And everybody's saying, "Oh, there's Nancy Kwan." Nancy Kwan. Frank Sinatra's dating Nancy Kwan. And I said, "I'm not Nancy Kwan, you know." Finally, I go there, and what does he do? He starts throwing the first ball. Uh, uh, Leo DeRocher was the name of, I think, the head of the Chicago Cubs. So he throws the first ball, and everybody, of course, claps. And then he sits between me and Hope Lang, and he says, "This is first base, second base, third base." He starts explaining the whole game. I start getting very uncomfortable because I've never had so many people stare at me. And I'm getting, oh my God. I mean, to be famous must be really difficult because I can't even touch my nose. And they might write something about me cleaning my nose. What is this? I said. So that was the first one. Then after that, I got invited to the Palm Springs house, and I got scared. I thought, my uncle always said there's no such thing as free lunch. And I thought, oh, now he's going to jump me. I know, because I'm hanging around. I put a chair on the door just in case he enters. I have my credit card. I'll run away, whatever. And he didn't. He was very, very courteous, very nice. And oh, I have to add this because this is what happened to the reason I think he didn't do anything to me. It's very important. So when I was leaving, I didn't want them to drop me. I said, no, I only live 10 minutes away. I'm only on Doheny Drive, so it's not far from Coldwater Canyon. I said, I'll just take a taxi, tell them to come over. And I took a taxi, and Jilly grabbed my bag, and and I found out at home that he put $100 in it. Now, this is the late 60s. $100 is a lot of money. So I didn't like that. So I guess I'm Asian also. And so I wrote him a lovely letter. And I went back to the house when I got invited. I think I saw him about 2-3 months. We were playing this game of dating and lunch and all that. So I wrote a letter, Miss, please accept this money back. I don't know. I wrote whatever I wrote. And then I gave it to the cook. And I looked for where's the chef? So I looked at the chef, happens to be Filipino. I looked at him. He doesn't know I'm Filipino. I looked at him and I started to speak the language. And he said, oh my God. He says, you're Filipino? I said, yes. He said, oh my God, wait till I tell my friends my boss is finally dating a Filipino person. And so he started getting excited. I said, make sure this letter goes to Mr. Sinatra, only Mr. Sinatra. And of course that was done. A few days later, I'm coming in, and again the boys are all there, and they're saying the 4-letter words and all this. Oh my God, like men do when they're together with each other. And he says, stop, don't speak like that when a lady is coming in the room. You have to have more manners when she's here. And I went, I think he got the money. and I thought, I don't think anybody that ever received the money from him would return it. Is probably why he respected me. And so I said, so that's why nothing happened in Palm Springs. And then one day, Nancy Sinatra was performing at Caesar's Palace, and he invited me, and I told him, I'm sorry, I can't go. And he says, I'm going to call Hefner. I said, please don't do that. I said, I just can't go. And this job is very good to me. I was the pool bunny. I played pool. I couldn't serve. I mean, there's another story there, but I won't go there. But so they made me the pool bunny because I was very good at pool. Anyway, so
Sadly,
I couldn't
we are,
go. And now,
we
this
are,
is the most memorable. The
oh,
most memorable is I couldn't go. So he said, okay, tomorrow we're going to pick you up. And the most memorable about Sinatra with me is that he sent his private plane on for me, and I was alone, and I started pinching myself and saying, I don't believe somebody did this for me. The big star, Frank Sinatra, sends his private plane just to pick little old me up just so I could see his daughters sing. And that's very impressive. And that's my loving story about Mr. Sinatra, who has been very good to me, and never a kiss on the cheek. Never. I dated him, but nothing ever happened because, first of all, I didn't allow it to happen. He's not my type. But
we
I
have to
adore him.
end it here because we are out of time. Will you come back and talk to us again?
Oh, sure, I would love to, because you know the next star was Yul Brynner, so that's my crush. I thought in seeing him in person was whoop, love him.
Well, we're definitely going to come back and talk. You can see myself and Marya Coburn at Bob Anderson's concert at Bergen Pack this Sunday at 7:30.